Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Scott Golden. I'm joined, as you can see, by professional pickleball player and color analyst occasionally on camera, Megan Hall. Megan, what's going on today?
Not too much. A little chilly in South Florida here, but doing pretty well. How are you?
Good. It actually ended up being a pretty nice day. For anybody that was at the APP Masters in Boca Raton this past weekend, it was very cold. I played in a gold medal match on Sunday night, and I was freezing. I had a sweatshirt and sweatpants on, and it was just one of those cold nights. It was kind of rainy and cold, both on and off for the whole weekend. What was your
Yeah,
experience
they
with
put on a
that
great
tournament?
tournament. It was, I think, over 1,000 people, some of the best players in the world. I think a ton of amateur players. I know some of my players at my club who have never played in a tournament, played their first tournament there. So, and I'm sure as some of your clients as well, Scott. So it was just a really fun tournament, right in our backyard.
Yeah, literally, it was in Boca Raton, which is in our backyard, and it was at the um, Patch Reef Tennis Center, and pretty exciting stuff. I was able to talk to this gentleman who's a lot of times behind the scenes. Not a lot of people maybe know how influential he is in the area, but Raul Treviso, I think is how you say his last name. Raul is instrumental in getting pickleball courts built in the county and with the city of Boca Raton. Um, I take that back. He's actually not as well involved with the county, but with the city of Boca Raton, he's been very influential in building courts. But I talked to him, and that facility, Patch Reef, is going to be taking the 6 current dedicated courts. And in the next 2 years, they just approved a plan to turn those back into tennis courts, hard court tennis courts. And then over by, if you were at the venue, there was a main championship court right there. Just on the other side of the fence, on the far side, they're going to be building 18 dedicated pickleball courts for the future, and that's really exciting news for players that play in the Boca Raton area.
Definitely. I mean, 18 courts in this area is at the moment unheard of. What would you say is the max, Scott? I mean, 8 to 10, maybe 12. I can't think of who's got 12 courts in this area. I don't know. But yeah, very excited. I know they're breaking ground, I think, starting in May to get that facility going. So it's going to be really exciting to have that 18 court facility so close to home. Hopefully they think in the future and put some parking in as well.
Yeah, they
Although I will
definitely
say
need some parking.
I will say that at this Patch Reef tournament, the APP Boca Masters, there was a lot of parking, unlike, when we've played at some other venues in Port St. Lucie and some other areas where the parking, you have to pay for parking a lot of the time. It wasn't like that. There was plenty of parking. So hopefully they continue accommodating, all people and the parking and large events at that facility.
Well, and let's talk about that. We are going live because we're basically the day after the dust has settled at the Desert Ridge Open for the PPA. The prior weekend, we just spoke about the APP Masters with their tournament. They're kicking off the first tournaments of the year, and this is, I believe, the third year because 2020 was the first year that both tours kind of kicked off their tours. A lot of bumps along the way, a lot of bruises, a lot of learning curve for both the APP and the PPA. We've come full circle now. We're into 2022. I think some lines have been drawn in the sand as far as the two tours. The pro players are kind of, I believe, deciding what tour they are going to predominantly play in. And so let's talk about some of that stuff. Let's discuss kind of where we were and what has been going on in the last 2 years, and then kind of where we are today in 2022. So I want to get your opinion on this. Both tours kind of.
Sorry to interrupt. I just kind of want to let the cat out of the bag because this has been something that's been talked about quite a bit, which is Jay DeVilliers, who really was the APP's golden boy, if you will.
Whoa. There's only one golden boy.
I think the APP tour kind of put Jay on the map. he was winning singles titles, mixed titles, men's doubles titles. And, and, now he is currently signed with the PPA. I believe he signed a 3-year contract with the PPA. And actually at the APP Boca Masters, he was awarded Player of the Year. So I think that there might be some animosity a little bit between, there's definitely animosity between the tours, APP and PPA, but definitely now involving the players. Because money, at the end of the day, money talks, and you have to go to where the money is. And I don't know what deal Jay DeVilliers got, but hopefully it was a good one, because I don't know if he burnt bridges along the way. I don't know, but he will be a PPA only player, PPA Tour only player now. He will not play APP, correct?
That's not totally correct. I think it's majority is correct that he will play the vast majority of his tournaments with the PPA. However, I did have a chance to speak with him and a few other of the pickleball pros that are trying to play professionally for a living. Yes, they are going to be signing these big 3-year deals. Hopefully they do get the money that's deserved. And I think they are signing because of that reason. But it's not totally true. Do you
think they're signing too soon?
I don't think so. No, it's been 2 years, Megan. They've had 2 years to kind of see the tours and where the two tours have visioned their tours being, and where they're headed in the direction that they're going. I believe that APP does a lot of things very well. I believe that APP has a good vision. I believe they're solid. I believe their game plan has been executed the way they've wanted to over the last 2 years. And I think they're not slowing down. I think they're only getting stronger, and they're only moving in the right direction. But I think the PPA has done a much better job of showcasing pickleball on a national stage, on Fox Sports 2, on Tennis Channel, on ESPN 2 as well, and some of these bigger platforms to get exposure. And I think when you break it down at the end of the day, you combine those nice venues with a media package that's going to put these players' names out there in front of a bigger audience, not just pickleball audiences. I think that's a recipe for success in the long term.
But I think here's the deal. PPA now has the money to back, everything that they want to do. Does the APP? I don't know. I don't think so. Nothing is going to replace Tom Dundon, like that billionaire money backing, because money can provide you with experience, exposure, just more quality of tournaments, of experience on the websites, everything. So, in terms of APP versus PPA, will APP be able to compete with the PPA as far as everything, venues, experience, player exposure, on television and online, and promoting players? PPA does a really good job of promoting their touring players. We had a sidebar of this conversation where I noticed PPA put out, congratulations to our touring professionals who won in their respective groups. And they showed Ben Johns, Anna Lee, and they showed, I think, the Colin and Ben, and they didn't show JW. And JW won the men's pro singles there this past weekend, and they didn't put a picture of him because JW isn't signed with them. So,
right.
I think I think both tours are doing great things for the sport of pickleball. And I think that's where we kind of need to keep the focus and have it not be like PPA versus APP. But the truth of the matter is, it kind of is them versus them, but really it's just all good for the sport. And I think they both can coexist. I just don't know how. So we'll see how that. I think this is going to be a big year for pickleball.
It is. It's really shaping up to be a nice year for pickleball. I think that these things that got unveiled at the beginning in January of 2022 with Tom Dundon coming in and not only buying the PPA out or teaming up with them, but buying Pickleball Central and pickleballtournaments.com. That shows you that this guy knows what he's doing right then and there. He did his homework, he did his due diligence, and he came out guns blazing right out of the gate. And that was spoke volumes to me. It wasn't just some billionaire that fell in love with pickleball and has a bunch of money to throw around. He actually is making strategic moves within the sport of pro pickleball to align himself to make some massive adjustments. And I want you to talk about, for the people watching, talk about what a billionaire that not only knows about pickleball, but knows about business and how to make strategic moves. What is that going to mean for the overall landscape of pickleball over the next year to two? Are we going to see pickleball as it is now, 2 years from now, or is it going to be completely different, the landscape?
Well, I think that he is going to, not only him, but the PPA, along with the PPA, I think we're going to see big things from them. I don't even know what that means exactly and how that's going to pan out, but I'm sure it's going to be more TV exposure. It's going to be, better turnouts, better circumstances for professional players, better venues, better experiences for amateur players as well, because still we are having pro players play with amateur players. And I don't know how many other professional sports are like that. Someone has told me ping pong tournaments are like that. They do combine professional and amateur. But really, like, if you think of all the big sports, at least in the United States, what big sports combine tournaments with amateurs? I don't know how many. I don't think many, if any. So so I think we'll start to see some of those changes, hopefully, and just better circumstances for all players in general, better experiences online and in person.
Definitely.
But then I think on the other hand, APP is now, partnered up with MLP. And I don't know what that partnership is going to look like yet, but, again, are they going to be able to do and match the amount of money and things that PPA does? I don't know.
Well, and I don't know that they have to. I don't know that they need to put themselves in a category where they have to compete with a billionaire that comes in and buys, PPA and pickleball tournaments and Pickleball Central. I think they need to figure out what they do well, continue to do that, and work their business plan the way that they envision it. And I think if you've been to APP and PPA, you know that the focus is slightly different. Ken Herman, you're going to see Ken with sweet tea and drinks, walking around, greeting people and meeting people, and being a man of the people, if you will. He loves meeting the amateurs and finding out about their stories and where they're coming from, and he really values those relationships. I'm not saying that PPA doesn't value the amateurs, but their focus is more driven towards growing pickleball at a professional level. And you also see the division of PPA saying, you know what? We know where the money's at. We know where the big sponsors are going to pay money, and that's to see
Sorry, I'm not sure if you're still there.
Hey, so little malfunction there. I was in the sun and my phone actually overheated. I don't know how that happened, but
Oh,
so I don't know. Have you been there the whole time? I don't know
I
if you've
got
been.
back. I went off because I thought you were still on the air, but
No, I think it overheated.
are
So
we on
anyway,
now?
yeah, we're back on, and I
Okay.
apologize, guys. My phone overheated. I was in the sunlight. I guess Florida's sun is still hot even in the winter, but it was
Even
ironic
in,
because I had sweatshirt and sweatpants on this morning, so pretty drastic temperature changes. But going back to what we were talking about, we
you were talking
don't
about
know.
Ken Herman,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
like, uh, the CEO and APP is like for the people kind of, and for, you always see Ken walking around saying hello, greeting, you know, serving sweet tea, like you said. And you can't help but not like Ken. Everyone really enjoys him and knows that he wants to grow pickleball. And obviously, what he's developed is amazing, and he should be so proud of where he's taken his tour. Um, and I think the Pardos, it's been, I think, also a labor of love, but I think it's been more of a business. It seems to be more of a business venture. Um, I mean,
Well,
they
that's
were
not to
willing.
say that APP is not a business venture as
No,
well, because it
I agree
obviously
with
is.
that. I no, I absolutely agree 100% that it's a business venture. And but I just wish, I think, I wish that they could somehow work together and grow the sport in that way, because I think if they were unified, then we would be even in a better place, instead of, who knows, in the next year or two, them fighting against one another, and then one goes bankrupt, or, one puts the other out of business. Um, I hope that they can work together somehow and see what they can each do in their own part to grow the sport. So
You mentioned this in the beginning. You said money talks, and do you see any potential of Tom Dundon behind the scenes going to Ken Herman and buying him out? Because money does talk, and as much as Ken loves the APP and he's committed to that, everybody has a limit and everybody has a number that they would settle for. And if Tom Dundon said, "Hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars to just team up with me, come on our team, and let's join forces," I mean, I would I would like to think that he would consider that. I don't know though.
I would like to think that he would consider that too, but I think when you start a business, it can be hard, especially when it's, when you're emotional about it. He started it from zero, from scratch, and I think it's his baby, and I think that it's very hard to give that up and to potentially not, especially if someone's vision isn't the same as your vision. And I mean, obviously, that's a conversation between Tom, the PPA, and APP, and meaning Ken. I don't know if they have the same visions. I'm not sure.
But again, at the end of the day, if money is in front of you and you're willing to take away the stress and the traveling every weekend to a different state, and Tom Dundon comes in and says, "I got enough money to just make things easier for you and make your life a lot simpler." Do you think there's a chance that he could do that? Who
I don't
knows?
know, Ken. Where are you? If Tom came up to you and approached you, what would you do? Or maybe they already had. I'm sure there's been a discussion. I'm sure. I'm sure
We
there's been
we don't
contact.
know. I do know that I talked to Ken Herman at the Boca Masters late Sunday night after a long week of pickleball, back-to-back tournaments. They were out in a different state, and they came across the country and came to Boca, and he looked exhausted, but still a smile on his face, to be honest.
So we know that PPA and Tom Dundon did speak with MLP, about MLP. So you don't think that they also spoke with APP? I'm sure they
I,
have.
I mean, listen, I know that APP did not have any interest in teaming up with the PPA when it was the Pardos. But now that Tom Dundon's in the mix and he brings a different perspective, maybe a lot more resources, who knows what might happen in the next year or so. I don't know. We can move on from that, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch how this unfolds. There's a lot, guys. Listen, for the average person out there, trust me on this. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes that we have no clue about until they get unveiled. hence why we knew nothing about MLP teaming up with the APP and PPA getting bought out by Tom Dundon. All these things were behind the scenes until it came out publicly. So trust me, there's a lot of things that play and at stake right now. But let's move on to a different subject, Megan. I want to get your opinion on the new sheriff in town, J.W. Johnson, going back-to-back weekends, winning the gold and the money in men's pro singles at not only the APP, which we've seen him do in the past in 2021, but now he's taking over and beating Ben Johns in the gold at the PPA in Desert Ridge this past weekend. What do you think? Unbelievable.
Well, he didn't beat Ben Johns in the gold, right?
Sorry, I misspoke, but he did beat Ben, I believe.
Dylan Frazier.
Oh, that's right. Dylan took down
Ben in the main draw. And so the Ben solidified bronze, I think beat Jay in the back draw. So Jay DeVilliers, newly signed PPA player, didn't medal in singles. And I feel like that's his forte. I mean, singles, we always see Jay on the podium, I feel like as of lately recently. But yeah, JW Johnson, obviously, 18 years old, 19 years old, and just honestly on the court, always looking wise beyond his years. We know him off the court, so we know that he's not wise beyond his years off the court. But on the court, he's so stoic and mature, and it's so fun to watch him play because it's so effortless. He makes it look that way. And I'm so happy for him. I know that he's worked so hard, and he, coming from tennis and, a big tennis family, now a big pickleball family, so happy to see his success. And slightly in part because he's not a PPA touring professional, that he is kind of someone who's been, him and his family, they've been very supportive of the APP. So for, more of an APP player to win gold at a PPA tournament, is great. Not that there's one player that he plays both tours, and that's wonderful. Well, but go ahead.
Well, I think you have to look at a couple factors of why he's not signed with the PPA. Money for him is not the driving force. It's not the driving force. He's 18, 19, 20 years old.
I think I think the right amount of money would be.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is he's not driven solely by the money because he's 19, 20 years old. He's single. He's not got a wife and kids and a house and a mortgage to pay for. So he's not driven by his decisions based on solely financial gain. I think, of course, any amount of money that is like substantial, he's going to probably jump on that. But if it's not the right amount of money right now in 2022, if they offered him less than what his expectations were, he doesn't have to take that money based on solely his financial responsibilities. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think that's why you're seeing somebody like him at 19 do that. And guess what? You're also seeing somebody like Simone, who runs a pickleball academy in Bonita Springs, Florida, who doesn't rely on just the player money from the PPA and the money she wins to pay her bills. So she's able to take a step back, and we've seen a paradigm shift, right? 2021, she did sign with the PPA. She was getting somewhere between, I don't know the exact number, somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 every tournament just to show up, whether she medaled or not. And then if she won the money, she would get that money that she deserved and owed, and then she would get matching bonuses from her sponsors. So now she's in a different position. She lost Ben Johns and Lucy Kovalova as partners, mainly due to her injury, her hip injury at the end of 2021. She wasn't sure when she was going to be able to come back full strength. And that's what I'm going to roll into now is the new partnerships that we're seeing. I want you to talk about what we saw this past weekend at Desert Ridge. You saw Lucy teamed up with who?
Callie Smith.
Right. And
we saw Ben Johns with Annalie Waters. We saw Tyson McGuffin and Jay DeVilliers, which is a totally new partnership. We saw Riley Newman play with Matt Wright. I mean, we saw Chuck Taylor, who honestly, I don't even know a whole lot about him, but Chuck Taylor played with Rob Cassidy, and I believe he played with Alice Jones in mixed and made huge runs. Did
Chuck's
you?
been Chuck's been putting in a lot of work. You can see that.
So where did he take a break? Like I don't think
No,
I
no, no.
see him that much on the East Coast.
No, he doesn't come to the East Coast much. He's out of Utah, and phenomenal player.
Right.
Phenomenal player, but he's you can tell he's been grinding in the off season. He's been preparing for these 2022 tournaments. You can see a difference in his demeanor, his confidence, and he belongs out there on the court with those guys 100%. But we're seeing a lot of these guys come on strong like that.
I mean, even Rob Cassidy. Rob Cassidy has been, making waves, on the APP tour and even on the PPA tour as well. But I love seeing him succeed because he's lefty, he's different, he's crafty, and I just love seeing the non-traditional tennis players be high up there on the podium or close to, the medal rounds. So, this is something else I wanted to talk to you about, Scott, because, I noticed that the PPA, they gave trophies, not medals. Did you notice that?
Yeah, they're trying to up the professionalism.
Yes, of the sport. So I thought that was interesting. Did you happen to see the trophy? I liked it. I thought it was a good looking trophy.
I think it's more professional when they take the pictures, and at the end when they're interviewing them, they're holding something that has some substance to it, and it's not just the standard medal that says, Desert Ridge Open. I mean,
right.
Everybody can get a medal, but it's there's a little more prestige now.
And maybe the amateurs are still getting medals, and maybe
100%.
in all the other, but maybe for pro tournaments, they give trophies. There's something like when Nadal beat Medvedev over the weekend, there's something about holding the trophy, like just, however much it weighs. I've never held a US Open trophy or, Australian Open trophy. Yeah. So I don't know how much it weighs, but it's just a beautiful thing to watch and to see.
Well, I can tell you that I don't come from a tennis background, that, but I appreciate sports in general, and I love watching high-level sports. And I tuned in for the end of that match with Nadal and Medvedev, and I can tell you, even watching at home in my room, I knew something was special was going on. It was his 21st Grand Slam that Nadal was able to win. And I looked at the numbers. You can go online and you can see like what the tournament prize money is. It was like $33 million in prize money. So why am I bringing that up? Well, it's just simply to put it in perspective. We have a long way to go in pickleball, even though we're making big strides. I think sometimes I get frustrated when there's these tennis players that come over and they're like, oh, pickleball is a joke compared to other sports, or it's a joke compared to tennis. But when you really stop and think about the gravity of competing at the finals in the Australian Open or the US Open or any of the Wimbledon, it's so much heavier what they're competing for. Not just the money, but the prestige of it.
Correct. I think, as an athlete and as a player, of course, like you play for money, but you want to be the best. You want to be the last and final player at the end of the day. And I think that's really what it comes down to also. And, it's so fun to watch Annalie Waters and like her confidence. And now that she's playing with Ben Johns, I think they're going to be a dominant force that we're going to see for a while now.
No question.
But we'll see who comes up with the goods. And I want to talk about the format that PPA now uses with their championship Sundays, not only with their championship Sundays, but also that they play 3 out of 5 games instead of the normal 2 out of 3. And I think just like tennis does for Grand Slam. So all of the other tennis tournaments are generally, most of the other ones are 2 out of 3. But for the men, they do best of 5 for the Grand Slam tournaments. And I think that just makes it more special. And you have to work harder mentally and physically and everything. And I think PPA is slowly but surely doing things to put that same kind of feeling and touch into their tournaments. And they started with Championship Sunday, playing all the gold medal matches on that day. And then also the 3 out of 5. And it just makes it a little more prestigious because I think we have so many pickleball tournaments. I mean, who's to say that, the Nationals is better than the Boca Masters, or the Boca Masters is better than, you know, the Carvana Desert Ridge. Like, they're all played the same.
Right.
Best 2 out of 3, blah, blah, blah. So I think I like where the PPA is going with that. Actually, now we just saw the APP, their last 2 tournaments, they've had a medal match Sunday where they play all the medal matches on Sundays, bronze medal and gold medal. So, they're taking some of that format too, because they see that, people want to come out and watch the best of the best play.
Well, also one thing that people may not realize is if you haven't ever been at a pro tournament or even an amateur tournament, it's a long, grueling day of games throughout the day. You start at 8 a.m. and you might, on a normal, before they change the format, you might be playing your championship finals in the men's pro or mixed pro at 7 o'clock at night. And you've been there for 12 hours all day long.
Or even like 8 or 9, and then nobody is there.
And the
because
players
everyone's
are
tired
exhausted.
and gone home. Correct.
Right. Where I think the catalyst for that changed, I don't think it was in the doubles, because doubles you can use a little less concerted energy. Where we really saw the paradigm shift was in singles.
Yes.
Because you don't realize, people can joke about pickleball being like less of a grueling sport than anything else. In singles, it's exhausting. Yes. And if you play game after game after game of people pushing you to your brink, pushing you to your limits, and you go 2 out of 3, you go 3 games all day long, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be cramping. You're going to be finding a way to just fight through that. And to be honest, it waters down the finals. Because I remember watching in Atlanta, and I think you were there with me. In Atlanta, we watched Ben Johns and Tyson McGuffin go toe-to-toe in the finals late in that evening, and Tyson was cramping.
Oh, yes.
He was cramping.
Yes.
He somehow, he was down 9-0. I still to this day don't know how he did this. Against Ben Johns, he got whooped in the first game. He got destroyed. He comes out in game 2. He's down 9-0, calls a timeout. Okay.
I thought it was 8-1 or something, but it's something crazy. He was down so big.
It was like 8-0, 8-1, 9-1, something like that. It was looking very dismal for Tyson McGuffin. And he goes over to the sideline. I'm not going to speculate, but basically he changed his socks, and he was saying that he had like a blister or something. He needed some time to change.
So he took a medical timeout because he had like a bloody toe or something.
He had something going on.
But really, he was dehydrated.
Let's call it like it is. He was cramping up. So he needed a little time. They give him a little time. Okay, he comes back out in game 2, down 7 or 8 against Ben Johns, the number 1 player in the world. He somehow comes back and wins this game like 12-10. It was unbelievable. He was literally hobbling between the points. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He wins game 2, and then, or maybe it was game 3. I think it was game 3. So then he has to come back and play a game to 15.
Yes, he won the best of 3 series because he came through the back draw. Ben was the winner's bracket finalist. And so Tyson was coming through the back draw. He won the best 2 out of 3,
but
then he had to play. He was done after that. He had to play the game to 15 to beat Ben, and he just couldn't. He was just cramping, and it was too much. He played 3 to 4 points, and that was it. And it was a shame. It was a shame because if they had played on a different day, who knows what would have happened?
Absolutely. Well, I have a funny story. After that 2 out of 3, they give you about 10 minutes to recover. So he goes to the locker room. He was showering and going to change and kind of get refreshed. So I walk in to use the restroom, and he's sitting in the locker room, and he's just sitting there by himself. And I said, man, that was an incredible run back to win that, to push it to 15. I said, I noticed you were cramping. Are you okay? He looks up at me. No lie. He looks right at me and he says, I'll be fine, golden boy. Let's bring it on. And I knew like he's a competitor. I knew like he's going to give it his all. And when he came back out, he literally played, like you said, 2 or 3 points, and he threw in the towel because he just couldn't continue. My point is this. The reason they went to the championship Sunday is because that exact situation. These guys were cramping up after all day playing. So, they needed that championship Sunday to recover and to feel good and to bring the best of themselves for the people that are paying to see that.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know the answer. Have you ever seen Ben John's cramp?
I actually haven't seen Ben John's cramp. I don't know. But I do know after talking to lots of pros that some people simply cramp, some people don't. And it's genetics. It's the way they eat. It's the way they hydrate. I've never seen you cramp, but I've cramped, so
Yes, you have.
it's all based on, we have a funny story about me cramping one time too. But anyway, going back to what you were saying about the Championship Sunday, I think that's best for the viewership. They're getting to see the best quality pickleball where these players get a good night's rest. They come out refreshed mentally and physically, and they can give their all during that situation. I love this. I got to throw this up there. Brainstock Pickleball, which is Mircea Marayu, who's a top senior pro for the APP Tour, said, Scott Golden, have you ever seen me cramp? Megan, tell everybody Mircea's philosophy on pickleball and cramping and not cramping.
So Mircea doesn't think that, pickleball is even exercise. Basically.
He doesn't believe in cramping.
It's like cramping. It's not even like Mircea could play doubles for 24 hours for 7 days straight and literally be totally fine. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely dead on. He has never cramped. And
if you get tired playing pickleball doubles, like you should be ashamed of yourself.
I've heard him say it, and he's not wrong. I mean, if you're in good shape and you're a pro player, like you really shouldn't be cramping.
Not during doubles, singles.
I do know, like there was a situation. I think it was Tampa, where it's really hot, and Adam Stone ended up cramping in like a doubles finals or the semifinals. That was a situation of I think he overdid it on the electrolytes, and so you can put too much calcium in your body, and it can actually backfire. And I think that was a situation where he drank too much of electrolytes.
To me, who is like the ultimate person who always cramps and is always dehydrated. It's a men's pro player. I want to see if you can guess it. Any idea?
I
swear I've never seen somebody cramp so many times.
Well, I know Johnny Goldberg cramps a lot.
Yes, he does, but even more than Johnny Goldberg.
I'm trying to think who that is.
All right, you don't know it.
Well, I'm not thinking of who it is at the moment.
Rafa Hewitt.
Oh, Rafa.
Rafa Hewitt cramps.
Rafa does cramp
more than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Well, he's also
what?
He's also from Idaho, so let's just call it like it is. Okay, he's from Idaho. Man's from Idaho. Come on.
That's funny. Look, there's nothing wrong with Idaho. They don't have summer in Idaho.
Brian Levine said cramping is for wimps. I believe I've seen Brian Levine cramp, though.
Correct. And actually, I didn't even know Brian Levine then, but I saw him cramp in his very first tournament. So, Brian, don't even get me started about Brian Levine cramping. But no, he takes care of himself much better now. No more cramping after his 45 matches at the APP Boca Masters tournament this past week. He played in every possible event he could with basically a wrist that was about to fall off.
No, he's nuts.
He had no time to think about cramping.
You know what? Mircea said, true story, but Rafa's from Alabama now. No, he's not. He took a job in Alabama. He is not from Alabama. He can't claim to be an Alabama boy.
Honestly, you know what? Alabama should claim Rafa. Just saying, like it would be a win in their book.
I think he fits the mold for Alabama. He's even a lefty. I think lefties look good in Alabama. But let me say this. I think, and we're going to get back on a more of a serious note, as this sport continues to develop and more money comes into the sport, I believe we're going to start seeing trainers being hired. I believe we're going to start seeing dietitians being hired. I think we're going to see
we
players.
already are seeing it. I mean,
yes, but not very much.
We're seeing mental coaches. I mean, throughout the board, I think Leah Jansen was really one of the first players to start with the mental coaches. And that's just, it's kind of gone through a lot of pro players now are, you're right. Physical trainers, mental coaches, dietitians, nutritionists, what can make people perform the best? And people are investing in it. They see they want it, they'll invest.
First of all, steroids will make you play your best. But
all right,
that brings up a good point. There's no testing for performance enhancing drugs right now. Do you think in the next couple of years? Also, you shared a post from the World Pickleball
Yes. The
rankings, WPO.
Maccabea games. The
Okay,
Maccabea games. Yes.
so let's talk about that.
So
That is a gateway to the Olympics, correct?
correct. So the Maccabea games is basically for people of Jewish descent, and everyone goes to Israel for their prospective sport, and it's at different times of the year and different years they have different sports. But is it the world's? I don't know. It's basically any Jewish person in the entire world goes to Israel and plays in the Maccabea games for their particular sport. My grandfather played for tennis, 50 and over, and won a gold medal. So I cannot wait, and I'm so excited for this to get going in for pickleball. And I know that there actually is a tournament to help support the Maccabea games in South Florida, April 1st and 2nd. And you do not have to be Jewish to play in that tournament. You can be anybody. I'm playing with Lee Rosenthal, and anyone can go, and it really supports hopefully pickleball in the Maccabea games in the future. And I think that if it's a sport in the Maccabea games, hopefully it then will be a sport in the Olympics, and vice versa. So
contrary to what people would think, I have the last name Golden, which sounds like a Jewish name. I am not Jewish. And Megan has the last name Hall, which I don't know if it is or isn't. It doesn't sound like it or does. But you are part Jewish. And so it's funny how, people can be deceived by last names there. But the bottom line is you don't have to be Jewish to play in that. But
you don't have to be Jewish to play in the tournament. That's April 1st and 2nd of 2022. That basically the money goes towards the Maccabea games in the future and getting pickleball in the Maccabea games. So really exciting stuff. And again, just like in every aspect that's possible all over the world, all over the country, pushing pickleball to new and higher heights and limits. And it's just very, very exciting to see.
Well, just like always, you put me on tight schedules, limitations. You never just allow it to be just open-ended. I know you've got a lesson coming up you've got to teach, so we're going to come to a close soon. But I wanted to get your opinion real quick on Michael Phelps versus Larry Fitzgerald at the PPA Desert Ridge Open on, I think, Saturday night or Friday night. It drew a huge, huge crowd.
Right.
Huge crowd. Bigger probably than I've ever seen with any pickleball match.
I mean, come on. Michael Phelps. I mean, how many gold medals does Michael Phelps have? I don't even know. I mean, too many.
A lot. He's a phenomenal swimmer, but let's call it like it is. Larry Fitzgerald is a beast on the court, and that comes from being a pure athlete. He was an NFL superstar as a receiver for the Arizona Cardinals for a long time. The guy is an animal and has just unbelievable athleticism. Michael Phelps,
it's a different kind of sport, but it's not just. It's fun that anybody can play the sport, and you really, again, coming from tennis or football or whatever, you have to perfect it. I don't care where you come from. You have to perfect it and put in time. But my favorite part about Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Phelps going to the court is there's a clip of Anna Lee playing Larry Fitzgerald, and she rolls this gorgeous two-handed backhand in the corner of Larry Fitzgerald. And he's just like, I can't even get that. Like, he had no shot. And I was like, go, Anna Lee, let's go. It was so good. It was so great.
That's awesome. Did you see the clip where I think it might have been that shot. She rolls it by him, and then he walks over to Connor Pardeau, and he says, like, hey, yes. Or no, it wasn't Connor Pardeau. It was Dave Fleming was the guy on the mic, and he goes over to Dave Fleming, and he whispers in Dave's ear, hey, let her know it's past her bedtime. So Dave was right. Like, it's past your bedtime. Your mom wants you to go home. She runs over to the mic, and she grabs the mic and says, Mom, give me 5 minutes. I can finish this pretty quick. And the crowd erupted in
that
laughter.
Is so funny. Anna Lee, I think, she's been around pickleball for so long. And, maybe it also has something to be with she's an only child, or maybe just her parents are cool. But she's like wise beyond her years, in particular on the court. But she is sassy. I love it. I love to see it.
No, she's great for the sport, no doubt, and her mother as well.
Yeah.
Last thing on that, I think Brian Levine just said we learned that swimming requires zero hand-eye coordination. So, Larry Fitzgerald's been catching a football going through the air with guys trying to take his head off for years, which clearly translates onto the pickleball court. But I think if you threw pickleball pros into the water with Michael Phelps, he would make them look like super amateurs and just knock the socks off of them on the
I
water.
hold my nose
scene,
when I swim, so I'm not getting in the water with Michael Phelps.
No, I'm not trying to get in the water with him either. But here's my point of that whole thing is I love what the PPA is doing, combining celebrity status players at their tournaments with fun, exciting things like that. Even if Michael Phelps kind of sucked at pickleball, let me tell you something. I don't follow Michael Phelps, or I didn't, up until I saw him playing pickleball. I went and followed him on, I think, Instagram maybe, or Facebook. I can't remember. Let me tell you about real fame. This guy has 7.9 million followers. No lie, Megan, and you'll appreciate this. 7.9 million people follow Michael Phelps. He follows 35 people. 35 people.
Yeah.
And that's probably his close friends and family, to be real honest. So
and now maybe Annalie Waters and Ben Johns.
100%.
Who knows? Someone can check it out and look.
Do you follow what I'm saying? I mean,
yes,
they're playing pickleball, bringing huge, massive exposure to our sport. So thank God for the Pardoes working that deal. I don't know how that deal got done. I don't know. I don't have the slightest clue how they signed
it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't
even matter. It doesn't matter.
It's so fun to see those kinds of crowds with those kinds of celebrities and exposure for pickleball. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's just really exciting. So thanks for having me on, Scott. And hopefully we can talk more about, what's happening in the future at some future tournaments or any kind of news that comes up.
I'm going to put you on the hot seat right now in front of everybody. I would like to do this more on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I think it's good for the sport to have people talk about the things going on and give some information and some insight. You're very, very knowledgeable. You play at the pro level as well. And you also do some other things in pickleball that are very beneficial to the sport. So I think having you on with me, it makes the dynamic much better. I can sit here and talk for hours by myself. It's not a problem.
We know you can.
You and everybody else certainly know that's the truth, but it's better to have a different perspective. Also a female that understands the perspective from a different angle, a different mindset. So I appreciate you so much. I appreciate that you've got to go now. So I will catch up with you later. I'm going to throw you off of here. Guys, everybody give Megan.
See you guys. See you soon.
All right, guys, that is a wrap for Megan Hall. She's got to go teach. I am done teaching for the day. So I'm going to go back now with some of the questions and some of the things that were talked about. And now we're going to talk about those things. So let me go back up. And I held off on this because I knew we had a lot to talk about. Let's start with this one. This one says, I haven't even read this one yet. It says, I am just hoping that there's a small dark room in the back where this is a secret plan to divide the PPA and APP so that 3 to 5 years from now, they create the National Pickleball League and have a Pickleball Pro League / Super Bowl, just like the ABA. Okay, so let's talk about that. We did touch on this, but I would like to point out that pickleball is unique and it's different than any other sport that I've ever played. And it's different as far as the dynamics and the setup of it. It was never designed, I don't think, to be a pro sport. Like Scott Manetta said out of South Carolina, it wasn't designed to be a professional sport in the beginning. It was invented in 1965 in Bainbridge Island, Washington, by a senator and his friends. And they created this sport out of like almost necessity. And they kind of made up the rules as they went. So, the rules are special. They're unique. I don't think they need to be changed for the most part, although we have seen some variances and some rule changes over the last year or two. But for the most part, the basic crux of the game is to be played at the non-volley zone up where the 14 by 20 zone exists. But when you play amateur pickleball, it doesn't always happen that way. So, it still looks like mini tennis sometimes or 4 people just banging the ball around. But at the pro level, it's a very intricate game with a lot of like minute things and what have you. But, I think my personal opinion, if you're asking, and maybe you aren't, but I'm going to share it anyway since this is my podcast. I think there will come a time, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, where money will create a unified body of what we have going on. Now, keep in mind, there's still another dynamic. The USA Pickleball Association, it's still the governing body for pickleball. So even though we've got the 2 professional tours, USA Pickleball is still, you can make the argument that they're relevant or not relevant in the sport. Right now, my opinion is that they're still relevant at the moment. They're still the governing body for pickleball. And so we can't discredit or discard them for the time being. But they are currently teamed up with the APP Tour. And PPA has decided to kind of go rogue and not follow 100% of the guidelines for pickleball. All right, so here's the thing. I want to address the thing with Scott Mineta. His first comment was APP and PPA only exist because of the 99% of registered tournament players. Pro pickleball is inflating cost of everything pickleball. Doubles pickleball will never attract the masses as a spectator sport because it translates very slow and boring. I would 100% disagree with that statement, Scott. I think pickleball is very fun to watch, especially at the elite level, the highest level. Go watch the Dink Pickleball, and they kind of showcase the best points out of a match. Now, granted, there are very slow points and methodical points that get played out throughout the whole 3 out of 5 set of games in the championship Sundays. However, as a whole, it's very exciting to watch, especially when you get to see the most intense highlight points of those matches. Also, that's why ESPN exists, because ESPN takes a whole boring match of whatever sport, baseball, football, basketball, tennis, whatever the case, and then they highlight those best plays, and then they showcase it for the average person to kind of tune in and see the best of that and not have to sit down for 3 hours at a time. If you watch golf, my God, golf is the most boring thing to watch. But you know what I do like to watch? I like to watch the highlights of the Masters in golf, where Tiger Woods or I don't even know all the names, but Vijay Singh or whoever, all these pro golfers, I like to see the highlights of it. And so, as pickleball develops and continues to grow, we are going to see, I believe we're going to see pickleball on ESPN as a highlight, during some of the matches. I particularly think that singles can be very exciting to watch. Doubles is a little slower and boring, and it translates a little bit different. But I can tell you, I watched pro tennis, Nadal versus Medvedev, and even though there were some very exciting points, and I think the narrative of the best of 5 and what the magnitude of what they're playing for and all those things, I think it really creates something very special from a viewing standpoint. I can tell you that I got bored during some of those points where, they're missing their first serves over and over. They're hitting short rallies and it's not very exciting. They're missing into the net. Sometimes they seem to get a little lethargic and tired throughout the 4.5 hour match. And let's be honest, anything you watch for 4.5 hours can get a little boring. Let's be honest. We're coming up on an hour on my podcast right here. And, people get tired of hearing somebody talk after an hour. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. But so I disagree. I think it can be something that's televised. I think rally scoring might be something that we see play out in the future. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think right now that it is maybe a little bit boring, but not to the point where we're not going to get any exposure on national television. Scott Mineta also said pro pickleball is a farce. It's a narrative that was created for people to make money. Simple. It's no different than calling a disc golf player, cornhole, darts, or any other rec sport a pro. They're great players. Let's not confuse these great players with being pro athletes. That's just a fact. Money is the driving force, and it's determined by to the 99% of our players by causing superinflation in all costs. Pickleball is the greatest participation sport in history. I would agree that it is a great participation sport, one that we all love. But, I think there is a niche for the pro market, and we're starting to see some bigger sponsors outside of the sport of pickleball that are coming into the sport and starting to pump money into the sport, combining that with a billionaire like Tom Dundon with the PPA. I think you're going to see some huge changes over the next couple of years where the pro tour is going to be able to stand alone on its own without the inflated cost of amateurs paying, $100, $150 or $200 to play at a tournament. I will also say that I'm playing in the U.S. Open coming up in April, and I only registered for one event. I've always played in as many events as possible, but it ends up being around $400. And I just honestly, I didn't want to play in all the events this year. I wanted to kind of enjoy the U.S. Open for what it is, which is it's broadcast as the biggest party in pickleball, the largest party in pickleball. And I wanted to have some days to spend with my mom and dad. They're coming down again this year. They love the atmosphere. They love pickleball and watching it. They love playing it. So I'm going to get a week to spend with them. And I'm only playing in one event. And it cost me $200, guys, $200 to just play in one event. Okay. It was $100 for the registration, $100 for the event to play in it. So that's $200, guys, out of my pocket. Now, I'm very, very fortunate and very blessed. I get reimbursed and sponsored by Monarch, which is owned by Dick's Sporting Goods. I just signed I think my third year or my fourth year in a row. So I'm very, very fortunate. So it's not about the money, but it is still $200. And if there's a person out there that's not sponsored, $200 can be a lot of money for people to come play. Plus, it's not just the cost of the tournament itself. It's the hotels, it's the flight down, it's the food cost, it's anything you spend outside of that. Maybe you buy some gear, you buy a paddle, you buy some clothes while you're there, whatever the case. So it can get very expensive. Let's see. Mircha made some good points in his response to Scott Mineta. You can read that later. I'm not going to throw that up there right now. Let's see. Let's move on. This is funny. I'm not sure who this is because it says Facebook user, but it says Golden Boy, I'm a little depressed that you're not doing this at an Olive Garden. You know what? That's funny. I think I have done one from an Olive Garden, so that's probably why you're saying that. Let's see. Scott Mineta said, in response to what we were talking about, he said, time will tell. I don't agree, but respect your opinion. Doubles pickleball is not ever going to reach mass spectators. Therefore, will never succeed in a pro scale. Singles is pickleball's only chance. I love and respect your opinion as well, but I disagree. I completely disagree. I think that both the singles and doubles is going to have a chance. And oftentimes I find singles to be a little more boring because it's not as long of rallies. The points are much faster and less, finesse and things like that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe both of us are right. But ultimately, at the end of the day, only time's going to tell what the deal is with that. So let's see. Question. Michael Matloff said, do you believe more players need to promote themselves to help grow the sport by using social media? You know what? I'm a big believer in social media. It's given me a lot of great opportunities over the years. I'm in the position that I'm in within pickleball, not only because of hard work and dedication to the sport and just my overall love for the game, but my passion has been played out on social media and through social media avenues for the last 5 years. And truthfully, it's changed my life. Not social media specifically, but pickleball combined with the social media aspect. It has given me opportunities that I never dreamed possible. And so, yes, I am Michael Matloff. I am a big believer in trying to promote that. And I think if you're not good at social media stuff, if you're not good at promoting yourself, or maybe you don't think that that's something that you personally want to do, but you are a pro player, reach out to me. I help players with social media stuff, helping learn and teach them to promote themselves, or even they can actually work a deal out with me to have me do their social media stuff with them. So, or for them. So that's definitely a great question. Let's see. Scott Menez said, I'll leave you with this. When pro pickleball has their very own tournament and events and charge people to just spectate and is successful, I'll be impressed. I don't ever see that happening. So your opinion is that it will never get to like a pro tennis level where there's big stadiums designed strictly for these tournaments. Let me say that I think this is such a weird like sport in the sense that like you might have 40 doubles teams playing in the tournament and they're all at one venue playing at the same time. So we have one championship court that they film, or maybe two sometimes, but the rest of these matches are out in the middle of nowhere, out in the tournament facility where nobody is getting to view them except for the viewers, the spectators that are there. So it's this double elimination tournament, or in PPA right now, it's single elimination that drives you to the undefeated teams seeing each other in the finals, and then they do the championship Sunday. I think with Tom Dundon coming in and him being a billionaire and him knowing how other things work, maybe we see more of like what NHL does or MLB or something like to that extent. But those are team events. So you have a team that plays together all year long. They make trades, they're doing this and that. So it's a team aspect where you have like 30 people or 40 people on a team or something like that. NFL, MLB, NBA, they all have teams and they sign contracts with players to be on that team. Where in pickleball, we see players switching partners almost every tournament. Some of them at the highest level partner up and they stay together, make that verbal agreement, or maybe even they sign something to agree to play. But at the end of the day, they can switch partners or what have you. So it's a little different dynamic. So it may not ever be like that, where you would play like a regular season and then you would have like playoffs at the end and then you crown like a team. It may not ever be like that, right? But look at pro tennis. These guys play in tournaments out throughout the year. They get points built up, and then they're ranked 1 through 100, and then 101 through whatever. And these guys are playing tournaments all year long, trying to build up the proper points so that they can compete at these tournaments. So they have satellites and ITFs and stuff in tennis to where you build up these points and then you qualify for bigger tournaments. We're not there yet, but I would not be surprised if it turns into something like that at some point. I think that following tennis parameters in some respects is going to be good for pickleball, and we can learn a lot from tennis. And then there's other things that I think we don't need to take away from that. So, but I do think that we're starting to see some bigger exposure and some big things happening. Guys like Michael Phelps and Larry Fitzgerald coming and playing pickleball at the PPA tournament is a big deal. Okay. Let's see. This Facebook user said, what networks are covering the PPA and APP tourneys? Okay, so let me clear that up. APP has hired a subcontract company, an independent company called Boxcar Productions. It exists out of the necessity to live stream at a high level and bring the live streams at a very high quality to the viewers at home. But they're mostly driven to the already pickleball spectators who love pickleball and can't be there in person. So APP has a different type of platform that they're going for. The PPA does also live stream on their YouTube channels, their Facebook channels, and I think also FTF, which is for the people, for the fans. And then they also go on ESPN2 sometimes. Now we saw this past weekend, Fox Sports 2 is where they broadcast the networks. Last year in 2021, the PPA also broadcast one weekend in Orlando, I believe it was, on Tennis Channel, I think, or Fox Sports again. One of them was Tennis Channel. So, these things are starting to happen slowly. And as the sport continues to grow, more money comes into the sport, more sponsors that aren't inside the sport of pickleball, putting money into the sport, sponsoring pro players, sponsoring the tournaments. As this money starts to really flow, I think we're going to see bigger venues. I think we're going to see bigger amounts of money being paid out. And I also would like to see more spots being paid out, 1 through maybe like 12. First place through 12th place instead of just the top three, because that way the money's being dispersed and these players can sustain a living, if you will, by making money through the top 12 spots. So as that wasn't possible before because there wasn't enough money, but now that Tom Dundon and then bigger sponsorships, bigger contracts being developed, as this stuff starts to evolve and snowball, hopefully we're going to start seeing some stuff like that happen. So, Robin Sandberg, who is a member at the club that I teach, Robin said, I disagree as well. Love watching the rallies and doubles. Agreed. I think you can learn a lot from it. I think it's exciting. And I think that, I think that it can be exciting for sure, especially when you watch like a Riley Newman who has such quick hands at the net. Scott Menendez said, talking to me, he said, Scott, you've always been a likable, positive guy. You've been great for the sport. Hopefully I will see you in Naples. Yeah, I'll definitely be there probably for the whole week or most of the week. It's just a quick 2-hour drive for me to Naples, so I can come back and forth pretty easily. Scott, I've always felt the same way about you. I always thought you were a great ambassador for the sport. Chad Shelton out of Tennessee, he said, are you still a commentator for the PPA? Yes, I am still a commentator for the PPA. But I will tell you that I think there's more people coming in that do a great job. Guys like Dave Fleming, guys like Morgan Evans, who've been around the sport forever, and some new names as well. We're going to start seeing. So I am still part of the broadcast team, but with that being said, I'm not flying out to the West Coast to do some of those tournaments out there in California and Arizona and Utah. As I live in Florida, in Boca Raton, and I now have a full-time job teaching pickleball. So it makes my schedule a little tougher as well. But yeah, I think from what I understand, like hopefully I will be doing some of the ones on the East Coast. Would love to still be part of that broadcast team as well going forward. So we'll see. Kevin Monroe said, what's up, Scott? How you doing, bud? Ryan Goza said, you back in Scudo or Southeast teach sport? Yeah, I would love to come up there and maybe even do a clinic. Okay, this question's good. It says, how will the APP compete with the PPA in terms of committed dollars for the athletes and in terms of exclusivity in PPA contracts? Okay, so that's a great question. I'll answer it first by saying the APP knows exactly what is going on with the PPA. They know exactly who is signed with that company for 3 years, and they know what they're up against. So what they've tried to do for 2022 is offer some player stipends. They've tried to offer some accommodations for housing and travel and give those guys some perks, those male and female pros that play for the APP and are loyal to them. So they are trying to somewhat match that. I think if this sport is changing and rapidly evolving like I think it is over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of new names and faces that we haven't seen before who are going to be competing at a very high level. They're going to be training, working very hard in the off season and between tournaments to showcase what they can do in professional pickleball. With that being said, I think we're going to see those type players come and play at the APPs initially to try to get their feet wet, try to gain some exposure and some recognition, some experience. And then as they keep developing, then you're going to see guys and girls, guys and females move up to the PPA tournaments and then try their hand there. So I think that's kind of going to kind of be the blueprint going forward. Let's see. This person said, Tom Dundon is a friend with Phelps and Fitzgerald. That is how PPA got them for pickleball exhibition. There you go. So Visual Virtual knows a little bit of more inside information than I know. And I'm really glad that you were able to come on here and clear that up. So going back to that scenario, that's some of the perks that we're going to see is when you have well-connected billionaires, they have connections and influence and pull with celebrities and high-profile people. So that is exciting to see and to know that we've now got a big player in the sport that can bring in big celebrity names. And it's simple. It's fun for Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Phelps to try something new, exciting. They're getting paid, I'm sure, a bunch of money to come in and do that. But in the flip side, it's really beneficial for us as pickleball players and as a sport to get the following that Michael Phelps has and Larry Fitzgerald has, the celebrity status that they carry, with 8 million followers on social media, that exposes our sport to a big, vast audience who are now going to start playing pickleball. And I think we're going to see more and more of that start happening. So Stephen Makaiko, Stephen said, why is it good or bad for the sport to have two competing leagues? Shouldn't they want to benefit the sport and build the audience and participation rather than splitting sides? I'm new to the sport and started playing tournaments now, but unfortunately can't travel to all these places. So to answer your question, there's some, personal things behind the scenes between APP and PPA. You have big personalities, you have egos, you have some things in place that, both tours want to succeed and they have some pride on the line. It would be easy to say like, oh, they should just combine forces and create one big tour. That would be simple. But human nature is not that simple. You've got money, you've got investment, you've got ego, pride. APP has a lot at stake. PPA also has a lot at stake. So, there's a lot of dynamics at play. So ultimately, I think when two big forces collide and there's definite tension, you're going to need to sit down at a round table at some point behind the scenes and hash it out and see if they can come to some type of terms and agreement where they combine and make one big tour, or APP becomes like a tour where you would enter as a pro into that APP tour, play for a year or however long, build up your points, and then that would catapult you or qualify you to play in the PPA. Hopefully that happens, or maybe they can combine and get bought out. Somebody gets bought out and they can make one big tour, but we'll see. Ultimately, in other sports, as history has showed, at some point, money decides where the sport and the direction heads. And so, we'll see. Mike Krenzer up from New York, Rochester, New York. He said, hey, Scott, what are your thoughts on the Sarah Ansberry situation in the clinics? Oh, good question. I just saw that yesterday, actually. I sent a screenshot to Megan Hall and said, like, hey, have you seen this? This is kind of a big thing, I think. And for anybody that doesn't know what Mike Krenzer is referring to, Sarah Ansberry is a top professional in our sport, has been around a long time, helped write the book for PPR, Professional Pickleball Registry, that helps teach the teachers that go out and train other professionals and also train people with a guidelines to proper training and teaching. Sarah Ansberry is a well-known name. If you don't know who she is, you've probably not been around the sport very long. She is associated also with Palmetto Dunes in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It's a facility that built 24 dedicated courts, which is pretty significant. And they run round the clock with lots of pickleball stuff there. So she, okay, so the best way to explain it, according to Sarah Ansberry, so I'm sure there's always two sides to everything. So if anybody from Pickleball Magazine or the gentleman that is in the mix with it, he owns Pickleball Magazine. He also runs and owns the tournament, not tournament, the camps. He runs pickleball camps. It's called Level Up. His name is escaping me right at this moment. I'm so sorry, guys. I need to eat something. I'm always coming on here before I've eaten, and then my brain shuts down on me. But it'll come to me in a second as I'm talking about this situation. But Sarah Ansberry and then, okay, Level Up is owned by this gentleman, and he also runs and owns Pickleball Magazine. He was allowing Sarah Ansberry and those people with their group to promote and broadcast their stuff inside Pickleball Magazine. And then there was a scenario where Level Up wanted to come into Palmetto Dunes, where Sarah Ansberry teaches, and do a Level Up clinic. And Sarah Ansberry said no. Like, no, you can't come in and do that. And then as a result, I guess, according to Sarah, Pickleball Magazine and Level Up got upset that was the case, and said, okay, well, then you're no longer allowed to advertise for your clinics and camps and stuff inside Pickleball Magazine. So like there's this back and forth tug of war right now. I don't want to claim to know all the details. I know there's always two sides to the story. So, who knows? I'm not even sure all the details, but I do know that it's kind of Sarah Ansberry was kind of handling it behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden it kind of went public as I guess they kind of came to blows, and she wasn't too happy about the way it was getting handled. He did respond on social media to Sarah Ansberry. So, he did say that there was a different angle to the story, a different side of the story than what she's telling. So, there's always going to be that back and forth. This question from this Facebook user says, why do tournaments get more sponsors, make spectators pay to watch, but the tournament fee is kept raising? Okay, so it's simple. It's more money. Like they're trying to bring in as much money as possible each tournament. A lot of times the average player does take the hit for, thank you, Terry. Wayne Dollard. That's the guy, Wayne Dollard. I'm just hungry. I know who Wayne Dollard is. Terry Hartley is the CFO with the APP. I'm sure he knows more about the situation than I do. But ultimately, it's coming down to two entities butting heads and some ego and pride getting in the way, and they're not seeing eye to eye now. So Wayne Dollard is the one that owns Pickleball Magazine and Level Up. Murray Lee DeHart said, I just played a tournament at the House of Pickleball in Leland. We played a round robin and then single elimination tournament. Enjoyed it better than a double elimination tournament. What are your thoughts? So I personally love that format, but I don't think it would be a good format for the professional level. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would be a good, way to do that. But I actually think the double elimination is the way they're probably going to keep it for now. But I do love that format as long as they allow the single elimination to play out and not just a round robin. Oh, those are mine right there. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Terry said, I don't know anything about that situation, to be clear. Oh, okay, Terry doesn't actually know anything. If you guys want to research a little more about it, find out more about that situation, it's not something that I know a ton about. I just saw it yesterday, but it did get broadcast publicly from Sarah Ansberry herself on social media, and then Wayne Dollard responded also publicly on social media. So apparently they couldn't resolve things from behind closed doors, and now Sarah Ansberry, being unhappy with the situation, has brought it public for everyone to see. Trust me, that's not an accident. She's probably doing that on purpose to try to get some answers and some resolve to it. So, all right, I'm going to wrap up, guys. There's people from the club starting to get here to play, and I was trying to do this podcast during the time where it was slow, when nobody was here, but people are starting to show up. So I'm going to jump off here. It's been an hour and 19 minutes of your time. So I do thank you guys. I'm going to try to do this more weekly or bi-weekly with Megan Hall. So, and we may even bring some special guests on, as we develop this and kind of get back on track with it. We took a little break for a while. Both of us got full-time jobs at respective clubs in Boca. So we've been both very busy and teaching and other things. And so, but I do think it's important as the sport continues to evolve that we stay on top of this stuff. So, and allow you guys to have a platform to tune in and learn some things, interact with us, and also ask good, meaningful questions. Johnny Storm said, what's for lunch? I have no idea. Most likely McDonald's or Taco Bell. My favorite. Steven said, need more meaningful tournaments in the tri-state area. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Maybe that could happen at some point. Chad Shelton, thanks for tuning in, buddy. Appreciate you guys. Everybody have a great day. I will try to stay on top of doing this more weekly. Talk to you guys later. Take care. I'm going to eat some lunch.